Hello and welcome to the Tech SEO podcast. My name is Dan Taylor, and today I have the privilege of being joined by Simon Vreeman. Hi, Simon.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Nice to
Yeah.
be here. Excited.
No, it's great to have you on the podcast, and it's been a few months since we last kind of saw each other over at the Viking Festival, which was fun, where John O. Alderson was dressed as a Roman, but that's a story for a different tale. So Simon is a growth advisor at Coromando, who are based in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. And today, Simon wanted to come on the podcast to talk about technical SEO and CRO, conversion rate optimization, and how they can help each other. So, Simon, I know you've got some good thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, why I think it's an interesting topic is, of course, the overlap that there is. But I'm more annoyed or surprised about the lack of communication between SEOs and CROs. You see it at conferences. If you go to an SEO conference, good luck finding a CRO person. But if you go to a CRO conference, good luck finding an SEO. But yeah, for the past 10 years, I've always been in a bit of both. So because I can't decide what I enjoy more, is it SEO or is it CRO? So that's why yeah, and for me it's like the perfect. If there's like a Venn diagram of SEO and CRO, and even analytics, I hope to be there in the middle. That's for me a comfortable but also super exciting, interesting spot to be in, because so many things are happening.
So I think when we kind of do that Venn diagram of CRO and SEO, I think there's often a common misconception that we're literally just kind of talking about things like internal linking, user choice architecture, even to a point where like how clicks from a SERPs and clicks collected by Chrome affect overall SEO performance, because it's very hard, I think, for an SEO to look at CRO and not try to see the SEO benefit first versus the user benefit. How do you see it very much at that level, or do you think it goes much deeper in actually more positive user signals? And yeah, interested to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, a CRO person is fully focused on the user in combination with the business goals. And for me, in my own head, then there's another third stakeholder, which is then Google or any other search engine. But then a CRO is always basically busy with collecting research information. Can be qualitative, can be quantitative, and applying that to make the website better for the user, and in the end also for the business. And especially that first part, that research part, that's maybe something which an SEO could do a little bit more. Sure, it's slightly harder. If you really want to do SEO testing, you probably need a lot of traffic for it. You need a website with a lot of types of pages, so you actually have the ammunition, so to speak, to test. But the other way around, or the other solution, is buy a domain name, put some content on it, test out if removing your canonicals or doing other weird stuff is actually making an impact, yes or no. And especially now with the API leak from a couple months ago. I mean, how many hypotheses can you come up with? Probably with like 20, maybe even 50, that you could test on your domains. So yeah, I think an SEO could learn a lot from the experimentation process and mindset that the CRO has. The good old-fashioned SEOs, I think, had it, and probably still applying it, but maybe the newer generation is more like, okay, this is what Google has been documenting, or what we read on all the blogs. But start experiment again. If an SEO could do that, that would be massively impactful.
So one of the things you kind of touched on there was just around the research side of it. I mean, there's a few things going to have. I want to talk about the algorithm leak and the impact on the potential theories on that. So when you say how SEOs can better research to improve UX and actually incorporate as part of the SEO rhythm, I kind of guess. How would you recommend, or what would be the starting point for someone looking to, who is an SEO, they've got 2-3 years experience, and now they're kind of going, yep, I need to look at user signals and CRO more. How would you recommend they kind of get started?
Yeah. So I think, I think one really cool tool that you can use for SEO and for CRO is also asked by Mark. The reason why is the type of data that the tool gives back. It gives the people also ask questions back. Google is not showing these questions just creating them on the fly. They are the actual questions people are asking about a certain topic. So if you are a CRO, and you need to write a brief to your copywriter, these are excellent starting points. Hey, maybe we should tackle these business questions because these are questions by our users, and currently we are not answering them. So let's answer them. And a CRO might even look at those questions. Okay, maybe plot them more on the customer journey. So what phase of the customer journey do these questions make sense? But also from an SEO, of course, like if you answer these questions really well with your content, depending on my definition of content is not just text, but images, video, whatever. You get more traffic from Google search in the end as well. So if you are starting out, I think this is one of the best and simplest sources to get started. And it's a two-edged sword, in my opinion, if you do it well. And it's simple. Like the dirtiest way to do it is scrape those questions, put them in ChatGPT, put it live and on a web page, and get started. And do it just on a test domain, not on your client or your business domain. But hopefully you get the point. And I think that's just, in my opinion, a great way to start. And then I'm not even looking at the Google Analytics, Google Search Console. Those are obvious in my opinion, but this is a good start. And maybe one other way would be Hotjar, and not just the click paths or the heat maps and all that stuff, but Hotjar or similar tools, of course. Ask little pop-up questions. And a clear example that I had when I was in-house at Vermoof, e-bike company. We had like a whole meeting with the CMO and with the art director and creative director, and we're like discussing, okay, what should be the next campaign be about? What USP of the bike should it be about? Should it be about the boost button or the integrated design, blah, blah, blah. And instead of discussing this for 2 hours with expensive people, in the meeting I said, well, you know what? I'm just going to put it live, a quick question on our website. Next week, we're going to do a new meeting. We will share the results, and then we're going to decide. And then we have some actual hard data. And while I was sharing that I was doing this in that meeting, we already had like 2 answers in. So it was really clear to the CMO, okay, let's stop this discussion. And for now, next week we come back, Simon has the results. And that's how you make real impact. And that the information you get from it, from just asking a simple question on your website, you have to do it in a clever way, of course, not just straight on the first page view, because you already have the cookie banner and all that stuff. But do it after a couple pages when people have a little bit more intent. You get super valuable information that you could apply for SEO and for CRO and even for the marketing campaign with creative people.
No, definitely. I think the art of just asking the user is something that's sometimes lost in SEO, because we've got access to so many tools. And then also, I also run this podcast not like the BBC. We can say whatever tools we like and say what we don't. Like a good example of this, probably from my world, about 5 years ago, I was working with a e-com platform. I did a full platform migration, and organic was fine, traffic looked fine, everything was fine, but actually transactions were going down, and no one could work out why. So I just basically said, at checkout stage, just stick a little pop-up, just says, "Hi, is there anything we can help you with today, or is there something you're missing?" kind of thing. And within 3 days, we discovered that all users with Yahoo email addresses their accounts hadn't been transferred properly, and also when they went to do a password reset, it wasn't sending out to Yahoo. Someone had ticked a box where Yahoo was just spam, so you had to visit like full user base who were unable to reset a password, unable to log in, unable to buy. So I just think that art of question asking is something that, I mean, yeah, Hotjar is one tool. Historically, I've used things like Yandex Metrica as well, which has tooling out of the box, but obviously data, Russia, yeah.
Yeah.
But Bing, also like Microsoft Clarity, also
Yeah,
has a
Clarity.
function
Yeah.
as well out of the box for those just wanting to dabble, but build the business case to then move to a specific platform. So touching on kind of like all the Google leaks that have happened right now, this kind of one thing I've seen be. I mean, the Google leak was basically the leak that launched 1,000 theories, wasn't it? But one thing which I noticed got picked up on, and it's something I wrote about back in January, and I think we kind of did the rounds about December, January this year, was around nav boost, and that kind of thing came out again in the leak a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of notion that like a navigation focused algorithm could really affect how Google assesses user experience, which indicates that then a better UX would, including intuitive navigations, internal linkings, could lead to stronger site engagement, stronger site demand due to positive experience, and then create those positive signals for SEO.
Yeah. Yeah, I very much believe that. I mean, of course, my belief is more and more that Google might even have some sort of a health metric, like or maybe not just one metric. But my point is more like I'm pretty sure Google can sort of identify are you putting effort in your website, and the effort is even as small as the amount of 404s you have on your website. It's do you have grammar or spelling mistakes for your website? It's just a quality metric. When I go to clients, and they always want to start with the fancy stuff, and often I start with the basics, and I even call it like, at your own home when your parents-in-law come over, you're probably going to clean up your house a little bit, and see Google as your parents-in-law. So if they come over, you want to make sure it's a bit tidy, it's nice, it's cleaned up. And I think the same applies for your website as well. And if that's partly maybe with NavBoost, but I don't know exact names, but there were some other API keys or stuff in that leak that was, at least for me, confirming my bias or confirming my hypothesis around it. But just a certain level of quality that Google's expecting.
Yeah, I think some of the key takeaways, and the reason I just turned my head around was because I opened up a doc, opened on the screen miles over there, not the one in front of me, which would be useful. The kind of docs did kind of confirm they do have a site authority metric. I think externally we, as an industry, bundle it into domain authority or a pseudonym page rank in some way. But the leak also kind of indicated that, I think to what you said there, my viewpoint is like the spelling, things like that aren't direct elements. But I think this is like why tools like Citable having like the Flesh Kincaid reading score abilities in there, because if your website is talking to a certain audience, or I don't know, if people are having a certain query and they're wanting simple answers that you don't need a PhD to understand, that reading ability is important, and that then affects your, I don't like using the word dwell time, but it affects your interaction with the site. It affects your how much you then kind of go, oh, I want to go back to this site. It could affect how other people value it and link to it. It's the authorship part. It kind of all ties into those elements alongside nav boost in my opinion, and really just kind of matters in that sense. I think it's often overlooked, and I think with the misconception around AI content in the last couple of years, I think has also probably worsened this as a situation in the industry. And by that I mean, when ChatGPT 3 kind of became really public access and everyone realized they could spin up a website with 1,000 pages on a weekend and make all the instant results, and then obviously 6-7 months later it went down, and I think the main narrative around that was Google doesn't like AI content. But for me, that's a misconception as to understanding how freshness works, how time decay works, how
Yeah.
quality thresholds work, and that you produced a load of content, Google tried it, Google got poor user signals, the freshness decayed, you fell below the quality threshold, you fell out of the index. And I think having that good CRO, having that good UX, having all those good elements create signals that keep you above quality thresholds and can enhance you against competitors, along with the other soup of things Google has to take into consideration.
Wasn't there, maybe you know better than I, but wasn't there also like part of it that it's a bit of confirmed that there's a bit of a sandbox? Like if you spin up a domain, you buy it right now, you will put into a sandbox for a couple months, maybe even
Yes,
longer.
the documents did talk about the sandbox that potentially holds new sites. I think
Yeah.
with that sandbox, I think it's quite subjective. I mean, my GoDaddy account is the I call it the place where good intentions and dreams never get off the ground, because I just buy domains at like 1 a.m. in the morning when I can't sleep, and then I forget about them, and a year later I get the renewal notice, and I'm like, oh, that'd have been good if I did it. I think the sandbox is there, but I think it's not as strict as some people think. I think if you're purposely going out to just spam or pure play going to this as an affiliate, there's one. It can kind of tell through beneficial purpose and other metrics, but yeah, it definitely confirms a sandbox.
Yeah.
The other thing, which I think pertains mainly to the CR and UX side of things from this as well, is that it kind of contradicted Google's public statements around how they use Chrome data necessarily for ranking and click data. And if you're providing a positive experience and everyone's happy, then yeah, it's going to be the click data and all that's going to massively matter.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's also where bit of the core vitals or the page experience signals come to play, and where for me the fun overlap with CRO is again. I notice more and more that if I'm talking to developers about site speed, I'm saying this SEO, do we really need to focus on that? The score is pretty okay, blah blah. And I'm like, oh, but this is not an SEO ticket. This is CRO. This is like you walk into a supermarket and you have the sliding doors. And I'm saying, okay, so on our own website, it takes 5 seconds to open the homepage. So it's gonna take 5 seconds to open the door, and then you can walk in. Do you think that's acceptable? And they're like, no. Okay, so we fixed it. So it's not for me, it's not an SEO issue. Core Web Vitals are for me, and especially the last one, the interactive
INP.
next print. Yeah. It's like the perfect example of a CRO metric and not an SEO metric. So that's how I've been framing it for the last couple months or maybe years already. Like more and more, like I see that really as a user towards the user. Like let's make the website faster for our users, and then really try to find stories that are more in the real life world, not only online. Where you experience the sliding door not opening or whatever.
One theory I've had, it's not only myself who's probably had this theory. Google, I think, tends to make things SEO metrics to try and influence how the web is built. So Core Web Vitals being one example of it. Previous examples being Mobile-geddon and the mobile first index and the fear factor around that. Google saw all the users moving to mobile site and desktop site. That's 2 loads. That's a lot to query, lots of everything. But if we put the fear into people to do mobile first and use a mobile first index, we can shape how people build the internet and also save money on having to dual index. The other one
Especially
may
the
be,
saving money.
yeah. I mean, I'm trying to make that less obvious, but I mean, money. And then the second part of that is the HTTPS one. Obviously, yeah, HTTPS as a standard is very good. Weirdly, even in the UK, every Christmas for the past 2 years, a battery brand, Duracell, have done television adverts, basically telling people to look for the lock sign and HTTPS when buying online over Christmas. And that's a battery brand doing that. I think Google kind of wanting the HTTPS and calling it a slight signal. I mean, yes, it's good for the internet, and we should be doing it as standard anyway. But I'd love to know kind of what their projections were of how much of the internet wouldn't have done that jump if SEOs hadn't made it an SEO thing, or it wasn't made an SEO thing. And I think Core Web Vitals falls into that same category. They want to make the web a better experience for users. I mean, if Google return good results, people keep going back to Google, and it kind of keeps the cyclical nature of a product going. By them making Core Web Vitals an SEO thing, and to be fair, they have been explicit. It's a tiebreaker. It's not like massively huge and things like that. But because they made it an SEO thing, they suddenly have this entire industry wanting to improve it. And even to a point now where we get client briefs of, oh, our IMP is bad, our FID is bad, our CLS is bad. And it's like, okay, like now we're moving to CRO very quickly, but we've made it that SEO thing. I wondered what your thoughts are on that.
No, indeed. If I put on my tinfoil hat, I think the site speed issue is definitely something that is for them a money issue. I guess that's also part why they introduced like this two-step indexing and rendering, because of the amount of. I think if you look at like what is it called, the HTTP archive, where they collect a lot of data about that, like what is now the average site load of a web page is, I think, already like 2 megabytes. And it's maybe you can look it up somewhere. And then the amount of requests per page on average is now 70. So for them, it's just, if you need to load on, what is it, 6 billion domains, 70 requests per page, and 2 megabytes, that's a fucking lot. And if you then need to crawl and render it every time, that's a lot of money. And if you then just make a ballpark figure, okay, every request or every rendering costs 1 cent, that's still a lot of money. So yeah, I think it's for them just a pure business decision to push site speed. And yeah, I think they figured out that the SEO world is the easiest way to get it done. Because we like to crawl behind Google, and it's like, oh yes, please.
I think the other side to this as well is I remember, I think it was SEO day last year, Gary Eliash stood in front of a slide that said 60% of the internet is duplicate, and that got massively misconstrued without context everywhere. But that was kind of more referring to, I believe, the HTTP to HTTPS / non-training / not understanding the difference between www being a subdomain and just sitting on the root kind of thing. There's only a finite amount of storage you could have, and there's only a finite amount of resources that as a business you can tolerate for that kind of storage level. And I mean, I wrote an article on it a couple of years ago about indexing. I called it the next big challenge in SEO, but given AI advancements, everything else, I think that sandbox element that Google has, you need to actually have that thing that sets you apart. It's no longer that my keyword structure is good, my content is good, my links are good. It's okay, but is your experience good? Is your brand perception good?
Branding, pure. My idea or thoughts about it is like, what if Google's really going to build this search engine with just one result? And how do you make sure you are the one? For me, it's pure branding. I mean, you can probably fuck up your website as much as you want with all the mistakes, and especially on tech SEO. But if you are BMW and you're searching for a high-end car, then you probably get hopefully BMW or Audi or a similar brand. But I think that's just based on pure branding in the end. So if you are a new brand, a new website out there, that's, I think, one of the first points you need to address. And in my opinion, if you install WordPress and don't change too much, and you install Yoast, you have, in terms of tech SEO, probably 80% done. And then it's more of a matter of don't fuck things up. But you have a good solid base, and from there on, just build a brand. And I think you You also get away with a lot of, let's say, tech SEO issues or in general SEO issues if you build a brand.
Yeah, but having worked with a lot of enterprise companies, I think brand, user demand, and gravitas can definitely paper over technical cracks in some instances. Just because the analogy I always use is if you search for the UK paint, like if you want white paint for your wall and you get a search result that doesn't have the likes of Dulux and Crown in it, users lose trust because their brands they know. So you need to almost do that to the point.
Yeah.
So kind of guess my last question, just to kind of tie off the end of the podcast, then, is just kind of more general, like what excites you about SEO right now? What are you looking forward to? What's happening right now? What kind of excites you in the industry?
I love the question. I think it's a lot. It's the current DOJ case. It's the AI competition going on. For me, the I think in general is that hopefully there will be more competition, and I applaud any fair competition especially in the search engine market. If it's done by regulatory pressure or just by sheer innovation, I hope more on the innovation side. I'm not a big fan of more regulation in that sense. But I hope we can make Google a little bit more uncomfortable. So they start innovating again. They hopefully they can also overcome their innovators dilemma. I'm sure they have the best people in the world to make it done, but yeah, that's the problem of the innovators dilemma. You have to. I mean, even the big oil companies like Shell have the same issue. Still collect a lot of money from ads and then they from oil, but how to turn it around is something else. And yeah, in that sense, it makes it for me as a marketeer super interesting. Like two years ago, there was no ChatGPT. Now there is, and it has a massive impact on the industry. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, watching Google I/O or any other developer conference keynote was quite boring. It was always small incremental changes. It's now exciting again. So yeah, I think we're getting to this new wave of tech innovation, and in that sense, sometimes I like to zoom out a bit and realize that only the internet is only like 20 years old, 20 plus year old. If you compare that to other industries, it's still super young. It's still not mature. So it's that, yeah. I'm not afraid in that sense, like, oh, I'm gonna lose my website or traffic. Maybe also I'm not really playing that game, but for me, it's more the biggest challenge is more towards myself personally, and also now my clients. It's like how to stay sort of agile and independent in that sense, and stay curious and continue learning, and that's that really excites me. So let's shake things up even more.
No, definitely. Well, that's all for this episode. Thank you again to Simon for taking time out to join me and for your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for listening back at home, in the office, if you're in the gym, or like most SEOs, just screaming into a spreadsheet to try and work out what's happened. So if you've liked this episode and you want to see more, plus all the other episodes of the Tech SEO podcast and other things on the SALT channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel or follow the audio version of this podcast on your favorite podcast app. We're available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, anywhere basically that takes the API. So I've been Dan Taylor, and this has been the Tech SEO podcast. Thank you very much for listening.